she was known as a very beautiful woman in her time. She is also the pilot of this ship, and her body was the only one that was intact at the time when they found the other bodies. They found other bodies next to her, but they were in pieces. She was the only one that was intact. We got a very good look now at this implement right here. We can see a piece of this technology which is attached to the center of her head, and you can see how the tubes are.
That's not the center of her head like they will want you to believe. See, if it wasn't so much cover up going on about the African system of Peru and the teachings of the sacredness of the goddess, let me show you. You see, if you can see right there in her head, that projection right there is the representation of the spiritual energy in the pineal gland. You can see the same thing right there coming on the top of her head from the same area of perspective as the mental energy of the third eye being open. That's what it's all about. You see right there is where that would be if it was a little lower, right there. But that's even past the third eye. That is your Ajuna chakra, where the serpent power is at. That means you are vibrating on pure God energy. Okay, but the level before the God energy is that right there, which is really, I don't want to confuse it, all right? So let me quit while I'm ahead. But what I'm getting at is that
all attached to the
these
eyes.
spiritual energies are all attached to the conceptualization of your ability to see with your pineal gland. That's what which we otherwise know as your third eye. And that's what she was navigating through space with. This right here was sending energy from her conceptualization of knowing, because she is the universe. So since she is the universe, all information in the universe is available through her consciousness. So she relied on her consciousness center right here more than her eyes, more than her nose, and more than her mouth. She knows everything that she is a conceptualization of the spiritual energy that's manifested right here in the center of her brain lobe, where she has her union with her Supreme Creator. And if that's where your Supreme Creator is talking to you the most, that this is where you should be getting your guidance from. Not from what you see, not from what you hear, not from what you smell, and not from what you taste. Only from what's real in the body, and that can only be found right here where you find true identity of self. And this woman did it. That's the reason she was able to fly a ship that big through space, because she knew her God herself. And that's the reason why she was the only one found with her body still intact, because she killed everyone else. They don't want to tell you that. Everyone else came to do her wrong, but she whipped them up. This is a bad woman right here. They invaded her ship, and she got that butt. I'm telling you, that's the only thing that could happen. Everybody else is gone, and they find her in there intact, and then traces of other bodies ripped apart. They don't want to tell you the truth. Somebody went in there and messed with the wrong person.
And then attached all the way to the bottom. So what you're kind of wondering is that what she's doing is, let's say when she's piloting the ship, she's giving commands with her mouth. And those commands with her mouth are then being fed into the tubes, into her brain. And what it is that there is a machine that is attached or can send a signal from that machine all the way into this device in her head, which would then send the commands to the ship, sort of like being on a cell phone and talking on that cell phone and powering the whole entire ship through it. Very advanced communicator.
See, the problem with that conceptualization is that it can only come from a center of someone who does not know the true reality of spiritual energy. Spiritual energy is first before any material manifestation. So the eradication of the material manifestation is the best way to transfer spiritual energy. That's the reason why they use natural bones instead of creating some PVC or some metal type of passage. So since this was simple and kept this way, there is no device like a computer that activates anything. It's all done through spiritual energy. There is no need for this spiritual woman to invent computers and all that old stuff. Those are things of the European. Our computers always have, and to the day, remain in our brains. We just stagnated because we have to use the computers that was needed for the Europeans. And since we have to use those, most of our brain power gets shut down.
of technology. So advanced it makes a person look like they're psychic almost, but there's just technology. And that's a very good look at the device here and here. And this is just mind-blowing technology, just very mind-blowing. You got to really wrap your head around it. You know, here are more of the braids that are pretty much frozen. Her whole entire hair was frozen in, and you just really got to wrap your head around it. The people in the old world in the time of Noah lived in an advanced state of technology, and so the way they looked, the way things looked, are not what you would ever saw them as. There has been a lot of science fiction films, but the truth is so much of them are disinformation that they never really showed you the raw, real appearance, they knowing of what the old world used to look like. And if you notice how her mouth is in an expression of fear or kind of an expression of panic, it's because she was frozen to death. So apparently she was basically in a state of terror at the time she died. This is one of the astronauts trying to find a way to remove the tubes off of her face without damaging her face. He's trying to find a way in there. I want you to take a very good look at this note because it's...
See, now this is what I'm talking about. He's going to remove the tubes without damaging her face. The whole concept of that is idiocy. That can't happen. You see, because if she was left with those things in her face when you found her, by you removing them, you damaged it. I don't know how you can see any other conceptualization than that. Sorry, I don't. I gotta go, everybody. I'll see you later. Peace. Mayad Hotel. Asara Satepara Ma'at. This is the same segment. This is called Aliens Come From Hell. I'm going to prove that that's not true. I'm going to say that aliens had come to hell to repair hell. That was something that got damaged by the people who created their own hell because that's what they want. And these guys that we all know as aliens have come here to restore this area back to a God calibration. That's what I'm here to show to you. I'm using this segment, Aliens Come From Hell, to support my theory. This is really an interesting piece of work. A lot of the stuff I agree with. If I do, I'm going to turn it on so you can hear what these guys say about his encounter on the moon or someone else's encounter. He's probably just reiterating or just retelling the story. I don't know. But it's someone's story about an encounter with the different intricacies of our universe, different life energies and everything that was having interaction with each other here on the moon encounter. So let's turn it on and get to it. Okay?
More doorways, all the way down over here. There's another section over here. It's just mind-blowing. The top of right here is actually the main ceiling right up here. And it's kind of a box-shaped structure, an oblong box-shaped structure. And once again, Buzz is just more in awe. You notice how slow he's moving now, kind of looking around at it, just kind of in disbelief, just, really blown away by what he saw. You're looking at it right here. This is another hallway point, and where they're at, their module is right over here. And so that's what they're basically looking at. And you notice how this room is designed. It has a very interesting type design. The design is very interesting. Every time I look at it, I can tell with old world structures, they were very into being creative, and so, but not too far off from what we would build a structure as. It's kind of like the same style, same format of how we build.
Look, let me tell you what he's trying not to say. What he's trying not to say is that since us white people didn't come up here and build this, we're going to say it looked like human, but we're not going to assume that it is human. But the problem with that is that you find a human species in the spaceship that you find there. A female woman, a melanated female in the spaceship. And then you see buildings. It's the same type of structures. I mean, look, it's real simple. This is the same type of doorways we build here on Earth. This is a square. Okay, I can identify this geometric design. It's called a square. So it's this in here. So don't say it's similar to human. It is human. This is why we live in such an ignorant world, because we have people who will cover up things that they can't take credit for. Excuse me. And take the accomplishment away from other people. So what this is a deliberate cover-up of the fact that the melanated people that's here on Earth has also been erecting structures already on the moon. That's what he doesn't want to say. But who needs him to say it? Since we know what he won't tell about us, it's our job to find it and tell it for ourselves.
Our buildings. So it's very powerful stuff, and the more you get a look at it, the more you're really floored by it. Okay, so you'll notice that they're on the outside. They're actually filming in the inside, something on the outside. And this is their module, so one thing you gotta ask yourself is, what's this thing? Right up here. And that is quite interesting, because it's actually outside. And so it's a little weird. It probably has a lot to do with the entities that are up there. And they did describe that the entities were hovering on top of their heads. So that could have something to do with that. Very, very weird indeed. And that's probably why he's filming the module right now, because he's getting worried. Okay, this is what I was talking about in terms of picking up metal fragments and circuits. Now, if you notice what he's doing, if you take a very good look at what he's doing, that's exactly what he's doing. He's collecting up circuits, he's collecting up wires, and he's collecting up metal pieces.
The scrap.
And he's basically piling them up so that they can basically take them out of there. And that's what Mr. Buzz right here is doing. He's basically trying to pile them all up together.
Okay, layman's term again. What he is doing is stealing the technology of an advanced civilization. That's what they went to the moon for. They went there to find out what they could find out about the people that was already on the moon. You did not pass over the moon without seeing the dilapidations of all the ruins and everything like that, plus the gold. So they knew already when they went there. Plus, let's not forget the fact that they already have people telling them stories about what goes on in space anyway, because there's people that live here on the Earth with us that has already been to the moon and probably have installations on the moon right now, as well as us melanated people have installations on all the planets as well as here on Earth. So, the thing being, you can see how underdeveloped their technology is for the moon. Anytime you go somewhere and have to carry all that equipment to sustain yourself, it lets you know your consciousness is not really ready for that. So of course, what he is after is materialism, because it took materialism to get in there. He couldn't go there with consciousness. It had to be materialism. So that's what he's there to get, materialism, whether it be in the form of other life forms, metals, plants, any of that stuff is what they would collect and bring back. All travelers would do that. It's not something that I'm saying will be synonymous with Europeans. But what I'm getting at is that the whole idea of going to the moon and finding indication of us melanated people being there and then keeping that a secret from the rest of the world, not coming back to Earth and pointing out the great people that we are to the people on the Earth and all that, and all this discovery being in the hands of the same people who destroyed everything about our history here on Earth and tried to cover up our great feats like the building of Egypt and all the great contributions we've given to the world. All this covering up of us and this downtrodden of us and keeping us oppressed is the reason why this world is going to have to stay based on that materialism, which means it's going to always be war and competition and all that stuff, because the survival and the placement of them remaining on top is going to only be something that can fly if they keep being deceitful and covering up the truth about who the melanated man or woman is. And that's really God and Goddess. That's just the bottom line. I hate to tell you that. So now they want you to believe that the aliens that they call them flying around the Earth is evil and mean, and that they're from hell. Okay, good. But he goes to the moon and find all the proof of us melanated people who's being so victimized by the Christians on this planet as us existing on the moon, but then don't want to come back to the earth and let no one know that. Because, of course, we're supposed to be the frowning, scorned on, evil pharaoh descendants that God has scorned and cursed. So, of course, we're not supposed to be able to be pulling off no grand feats like going to the moon, and already done had civilizations there too, just like here in America that has flourished and gone millions of years ago. Mr. Johnny Come Lately now want to pop up, put his position as God on the whole universe and destroy everything and kill the true God and Goddess.
And quite interesting. And the reason why it's dark there is because it's just not enough light. And this is a computer composite of what the structure looks like. If you take a very good look at it, it's very, very big. And you can see how it's just a big, massive, long, two-story administrative building. And just very, very huge. And quite interesting indeed.
And human.
That's just to give you a very good look at what you're looking at. And there's just so much about this, you know. This is a piece of the second floor ceiling. It's broken off there. You notice some things on top of it. It's kind of circular, like blocks and stones on top of right here. That could have more of a function and everything. We could be looking at a piece of a broken off machine. And it's just amazing, you know. Very sad when you look at it too, because you realize certain things, and you realize what we lost due to sin, due to rebellion against God. We cost ourselves quite a bit. And
see, here's the deal. That's what he can claim for himself, that he rebelled against God. I'm not claiming that for myself. When he say we, he can't mean that as a collective source, because I don't feel in my heart that I've done anything to disturb my unique knowledge of my God self. My knowledge of my God self means that I am not in opposition with my Creator. That is something for him to say, because he's looking at this materialism that he feel has become into a state of dilapidation and forgotten and all this and all that. So to his conceptualization of materialism and waste of materialism being so important, he feel that that is an indication that for some reason his God has forsaken him. Okay, and left the moon all dilapidated. What once used to be a thriving community, and which he can't even claim that stuff. It's not even his. Okay, he can't straight off say that this is his civilization who put this technology up here. But since it's technology of man, and he wants to put himself in the seat of the only person capable of doing that, he's just going to assume that at one time, that was him. Like they gave you the Nazi shit, okay? Always trying to jump themselves into something great that they haven't even accomplished, but someone else has done it, so now they want to usurp these people and claim it for themselves. So what's going on is that, yes, there was a colonization on the moon, and it was the same melanated people that was here on Earth. All right, now here they come showing up, slowly but surely, finding all these ruins. Even going to show you a ship they found with a melanated woman in it, but for some reason, they don't want to give credit for all this remaining remnants of this civilization, along with the ship, along with proof of the woman in the ship, but they don't tie them all together. That's what I want you to see. Watch what happens.
The Earth is temporary. Even the planets are. None of this stuff is going to last. You're not going to see this stuff in eternity. And believe me, you don't really want to. The place is haunting, by the way. If you have the astronauts who talked about it, who covertly talked about it, spoke about the feeling of being haunted, the feeling of something was on their back or on their shoulders.
See, when you're not aware of how the spirit world works, you will see spiritual energy that's around you as something that's threatening, because it's unknown. If the Europeans had a way to kill spirit, they would, because most of the things that's unknown and puts a challenging effort of cognitive, if you will, requirement into effect, other than doing the requirement of finding out, they just want it rather eradicated so you won't have to deal with it. Get rid of the problem, you won't have to do the work of figuring it out. See, that's the reason why when the spiritual world comes around and start demonstrating itself in the energy that it is, ensuring that spirit is both visible and invisible, because that's what it is, when it starts to show the energy patterns and the energy fluxes that it has on the non-material side. And so when something comes from nothing, and they could feel the hair stand up on their shoulder, because that's this energy, the same energy that the wind is. You can't see it, but you can feel it and you can hear it. Okay, same thing. It's just a way of conceptualization that make you not understand that the spiritual energy that you feel when something is staring at you is because you are actually feeling the electromagnetic energy flux of your whole universe. And yet something is staring at you. It's called HUED, the universe itself, saying to you, what the fuck are you doing on the moon? Okay? Excuse my language.
Looking at the apparitions of the fallen angels being haunted by them. So the moon is very much haunted. So right now we're going to show you a female body that was found on the moon. And this came from Apollo 20.
Now, I'm going to say this out on the limb, and I hope I don't prove myself wrong. But for some reason, he's just going to completely forget to mention the fact that this is a melanated woman. Or what you could say, you know, strangely, she looks like the black people on Earth. And these structures up here, some of them are pyramids, like the pyramids of Egypt. And, you know, that stuff never just it always stays unconnected. So, for some reason, they want to cover up the fact that these black people are some really smart people. They be all over the whole universe building their shit here and there, and then we're really fucked up because what did we do? We enslaved them and impeded all their knowledge, and now we're all stuck around on a dying-ass planet. And instead of us trying to all get back to naturalization and returning things to the natural balance, no, we still want to vibrate on hate and try to be superior and supreme, and all the foolishness that we can all look and see is causing all our death on this planet.
Which was a very covert mission, and it was done between Americans and Russian astronauts. And this mission was the last known mission to the moon in terms of the American involvement of it. And this is the body that you're looking at right here.
Okay, now if I could just go out on the limb for 1 minute, it's obvious to see this is a black woman. Okay, I don't care what no one says. Even if he doesn't mention that, I'm going to mention it. Look, see, she has braids, she has melanin, everything that is synonymous with the women that I see walking around right now. You know, and you know what, too? Let me add that she's a very beautiful woman, even though she might be 2 million years old.
And you'll notice some things about the body is that you'll notice these tubes that are connected to her eyes and her mouth and to the center point of her head. These tubes.
Those bones, they look like real bones, like real biology that was naturally created by nature. They're not tubes that will give you the idea of something that was generated from the combination of activists. No, these are natural form, spiritual created bones is what they look like to me. Naturally created by the universe. They just utilize them so they can keep everything natural. That's the type of people we are. That's not being primitive. That's being knowledgeable of what you have to work with naturally.
These are actually flying devices, and they are devices that are attached to the neurons of her mind, basically. They had a technology back then, a long time ago, where they were able to pilot things almost seemingly using their mind, but they were using technology that was attached to their mind to send out basically a particle ray to operate computers that would lift the ship into the air. And so basically that's what you're looking at are piloting devices that are attached to her face. And if you get a really good look at her, you'll notice her skin is very much in place. The people in the ancient world lived for a long, long time. That means that their skin texture was far more powerful than ours, meaning they didn't decay as quick as us. As they lived for thousands of years, it would also take thousands of years for them to decay. And so that's why her skin is still intact. Also, the fact that where she was, it was highly cold. She actually was frozen to death So when you add that in there, pretty much you can see why her skin is very much attached.
Okay, let's go at this too. Let's consider the fact that this is a goddess. You're not going to be flying around in a ship like that with that much respect and power the universe has given you. The only thing that's going to give you knowledge to do something that great is going to be knowledge coming from a light source of information. These light information, these light entities is always God emanations all the time. So this lady is a goddess, okay? Now here's the deal. The spiritual part of this body left the body. There's no such thing as death. So when the spiritual part left this body, it's because it had somewhere to go. Alright, something else to do. The ship got left there because whatever the course of action was necessary for it to get left there, it happened. Alright, they moved on somewhere else. So by the time they get into this body, that's all that's left there is the body. But the fact that the spiritual energy that was inside of this body made this body such a unique body as to where it would have never deteriorated. Because that's how high the vibrations were, according to the encapsulation of energy knowledge that was inside of it. So since it was vibrating on straight God energy, that means that it was left in a state of godliness that would have preserved it forever had it not been tarnished. See, you don't see bone structures on a body like this that's going to come from some people whose knowledge is so limited that there's barbarians and still vibrating on methods of slavery and corruption and all that stuff. You're not going to be flying vessels utilizing small bones like that to pass spiritual energy through, because your spirituality won't be high enough for a conceptualization of how the universe works to vibrate on that if you're barbaric and still enslaving people. This is definitely people that comes after the barbarians and kill them. So she left that ship there because she had to manifest into something else to come here to do a job here. I'm willing to bet you that. But let's go on to see if he comes up with the notion that he might want to mention the fact that this looks really, really close to an African woman, or even just come right out and admit it that, yeah, black people are on the moon too. We found this lady up there.
And there's other things you'll notice about her. If you notice, the rims around her hair are quite curly, and you'll notice some of that there and there, and you'll notice some in the back shot. Basically, those are braids.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
She had braided hair. And if you take a pretty good look at her, you'll notice that her facial features resemble someone of quite great beauty. She was known as a very beautiful woman in her time. She is also the pilot of this ship, and her body was the only one that was intact at the time when they found the other bodies. They found other bodies next to her, but they were in pieces. She was the only one that was intact. We got a very good look now at this implement right here. We can see a piece of this technology which is attached to the center of her head. And you can see how the tubes are all attached to the eyes and then attached all the way to the bottom. So what you're kind of wondering is that what she's doing is, let's say when she's piloting the ship, she's giving commands with her mouth. And those commands with her mouth are then being fed into the tubes, into her brain. And what it is that there is a machine that is attached or can send a signal from that machine all the way into this device in her head, which would then send the commands to the ship, sort of like being on a cell phone and talking on that cell phone.
Well, it's not really that complicated, because that would be from a Eurocentric perspective of how the world works. Well, we as melanated people, the fact that we have melanocytes in our body makes us where we're compatible or could be on the electromagnetic frequency with anything that's made in this universe, because everything that's in this universe is conduced from the same materialism that the universe has to work with, which is called melanin. So if you are a melanated person and you are in an environment where everything around you also has melanin in it, you should be able to stay in constant touch with everything in your universe at all times and know what is going on at all times, as long as you don't have your hard drive bogged down with Santa Claus and Jesus and work all the damn time and gotta pay my mortgage and I gotta do this, all this old crazy European shit that takes everybody's mind off of what the universe had us in store to focus on, okay? So this lady has very simple machinery to operate this ship with, Because they had a very simple universe that they kept working and functioning the way it was supposed to work and function. When you have stars and everything else that's abiding and continue their movement under God-given instruction, all you have to do is don't try to change all that and get in where you fit in with a divine connection with the universe, and you too can be the same governing operative in this universe as any planet, as any star, as any grade of grass. Okay, because that's how it works. It's only when you try to change everything and come up with artificial flavor this, okay, or you cutting on people's titties and giving them fake titties, you getting rid of natural milk and giving people powdered milk, cutting on women uteruses and giving them fake uterus. Now you are defining your universe and you're defining your God, and that's the reason why you got to come up with all the shit that they need. Because once you start tampering with what's natural and creating artificial ways of survival, you have to keep creating that. And so that's the reason why the materialism on earth is going to be destroyed, because the materialism on earth has eradicated the spirituality like you see demonstrated with this lady. These are natural bones on her face. Has nothing to do with no